So the West got another peace dividend, and they actually, I don't know if I'm playing from the same mindset as I was last night. Last night I felt like, oh geez, I really have to step in. Well, I'm not really feeling that so much. The Germans got pushed back at Leningrad. The Russians are able to build up a big force. So I went for another turn of peace and, built up some military capabilities, but mainly built up my investments because I'm at like 19 points after I drew my peace dividend this time. I'm getting close. It's 25, but still, I'm getting close to being able to, throw that weight in a fashion that if I can just get my investment up at 19, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more puts me to 24. Well, clearly I'll have peace dividends that'll be adding as well, although I've gotten a lot of high valued ones. And the Axis in USSR, even though they saw what the Brits did, didn't come to some sort of agreement of, well, let's wax the Western Allies here. Instead, they both concentrated very heavily on their forces. You can see 9 points for the Russians, 8 for the Germans, and then on getting action cards, which do two things. Both of them are kind of, the Germans are weak on resources. The Russians are weak on population, of all things. So they want to extend their values in those so that they get their own industrial build up for the next phases military, but also because those action cards give them military plans, and they're kind of out of the ability to generate military actions. They spent so many on their last turn. And we'll go to the government card, and we have the Allies going first. Now, as a personal note, I guess, for whatever it's worth, I went out to this music festival, which was just way overhyped. It ended up being so lame. They said, I don't know, almost 200 bands or something like that, maybe. But most of them are playing in tiny little cafes and coffee shops with no real room. And in some cases they have a full heavy metal band playing in a tiny little cafe or something. It just was not matched up well. It turns out there were no venues in sight. There was one, and unlike most musical festivals in towns of comparable size that I've seen that have multiple stages, there was just one stage. One little tiny street was blocked off and a stage there. It was really a puny little thing, and I left after a couple hours because it was clear that it wasn't going to get much better because there just were not bars or whatever on that street that could support that kind of thing. They placed it in a stupid location, probably to celebrate that the train made it out to the middle of their town. Okay, somebody pointed out I've been doing it wrong, and boy, in a big way. The movement allowance, moving a unit, you pay a command to activate the unit, but then it can move as far as it's allowed to move, either using strategic movement or otherwise. So, I don't know how much that's affected things, but it will certainly change to the proper way of playing it at this point. It just made sense to me that you need fuel and stuff to move units forward, that you'd be paying for each movement point essentially, instead of just I activate this unit. But it's okay. At least in the one place where I looked it up, which is under movement. You move a number of units equal to the command value of the command card you played, and they can move through a number of contiguous land areas up to their movement speed. Again, I'm not sure it had a huge effect, but I'd rather see what the design is intended to be. Well, the Axis is beginning their whining at this point. Oh, geez, I shouldn't have attacked you, man. Look, the Allies are getting ahead. We've got to work together to hurt them. The problem is neither side can really, the Axis nor the Soviets, can really trust the other for this kind of operation. And the Soviets are really ill prepared at this point now to fight anyone but the Axis. Once we start taking care of the political situation, the Allies threw a guarantee into Czechoslovakia after the Axis played this card kind of stupidly a little too early. The Soviets threw some more influence into Bulgaria. That I never recorded any value for it, so it's okay. The Western Allies throw more influence into the United States, which is going to automatically come into full control next turn. And then they also threw an influence into Turkey, which gets us the 1-2 population and a resource. We don't really need these, but we're clearing open the space for a potential win with no question. We've done 2 factory productions. We increased another secret technology, so now we're down to a 5-card hand, but we're well below that even. In fact, our hand may be low enough that the German argument of, look, we really have to do something about them, may be becoming more believable. The problem is define a path to victory for us as, for the Soviets. They're saying, look, how do we win, right? Well, we win by leaving each other alone, by concentrating on the Western Allies. Okay, how do I trust you? You're hoarding troops on my border, I would say that's a hard sell at this point. I'm going to give it a 1 in 6 chance of working. And it does not. But I think we're going to start seeing the Western Allies really kind of running away with this as long as the Soviets and Germans keep fighting. So now we're doing movement right, where the Soviets moved only 4 units. They're launching attacks into Lvov. They moved up into Archangel to cover that. And then, of course, this battle. I get to choose which one I want to do first. I don't know that I want to do this battle at Vilna. So I'm going to do attack down here. And we're hitting a fort, which isn't terribly good, but we knew that's what's there. The fort gets to swing first. It's 1 hit. And now the Russians get to swing. And I'll shoot with the second unit as well. Nope. So the Germans keep this location. And the Russian advance was unsuccessful. That puts us to our Germans, where we have 5 now. We would love to set up to attack the West, but I don't see it. I gotta think a little. German lack of resources means an attack into Odessa makes sense. We pushed a lot of forces forward. We're not really going for that quick, let's break Leningrad-Moscow line anymore. Where do we want to hit first? Well, we'll hit up here where we're used to fighting. And we're hitting a lot. The Russians get first fire, because we don't have anything that helps with that. That's 2 hits. Yeah, this is not terribly good, but we've got them kind of pinned down there, not terribly. And the second one hits again. And now the Germans will shoot back. No. 1. Hey, we got a hit. 2. Got another hit. And 3 misses. So the Russians are back up here. That battle's done. I want this one because I've got first fires all over the place. All right. So first, my fortress fires. Oh, that's 1. I'm not going to wipe him out. And now my plane, which isn't terribly good, but hey! And we're weakening that Russian southern front pretty heavily. And now finally, these are held by, oh, finally the Russians get to choose whether to shoot back or run away. We're running away. And then finally the attack here. The Russian fort gets to fire first. What do I want to shoot at? I guess I'll shoot at ground units because I'm a lot better at them. I get 2 hits on that big German army. And now the German plane gets a hit. And if the German infantry gets fairly lucky, we're going to take Odessa. Very lucky, but hey, we do. All right, well, that's going to change some values, isn't it? So the Germans just took Odessa with 1 population and 2 resources. 2 resources and a population. That's pretty big. Of course, that could swing back, but right now the Germans have possession. And they drop their card. Supply looks the same. These guys are out of supply, but it doesn't matter because they're fortresses. Everything else is pretty clean supply lines. So we move to summer. And Germany's looking pretty thin here, isn't it? The Brits passed on their card play. The Germans and Russians each played a card largely due to the values on the card. So for example, the Russians chose this one because it's a foreign aid card. It also gives us a nice early move. Whereas their other summer card would not. That early move means I can try to cover Kharkov or whatever, which is opening up and becoming a problem. On the Allied side, we're sitting over here looking at this. Now, if we attack, we can probably take the Ruhr. We might be able to take Munich, who knows, with a march through there. The Ruhr, I'm trying to figure out the naval movement because, see, the way it's expressed here, a fleet moves 1 by land or 3 by sea, but I think that's simply this special rule here, 11.2. Let me see how that's phrased. That it's not, I have to spend my entire turn to make the invasion. Yeah, that's the way it looks like it's worded. Which means I can almost certainly take the Ruhr. I can land an invasion in Denmark. I do have some troops. There isn't much that can reach Britain, so I feel pretty safe about that. The thing is, though, that doesn't give me Berlin. I need the 2 spaces, and then I have to suffer the danger of the Italians, who don't look weak particularly, because nobody's moved anything from them. I'm going to give this, like I did with the German-Russian pact, I'm going to give this a 1 or a 2. The Allies are going to play. Both the Germans and Russians have played a card. The Allies had the first option to do so, but they're not going to do it until after these guys have to make their decision. Yeah, we're going to go for it. So we're going to be declaring war on the Axis. Now to do this, we need to play a summer command. And we have one. I could have played this, but I can't play it now. It would have had to be during my card play phase. It's now that it's interesting, right? So yeah, I'm going in too. And now we reveal, and we've got a Y6, a B6. I kind of don't move these around. And the Germans know they're in trouble here. A K9. Which means the Russians get to move first. Russians use 5 of their 6 moves to cover Kharkov. They're staying here, which is not necessarily good. They don't want to fight. They're outnumbered, but they want to slow things down there. Obviously, here in Kiev, that looks like it's at risk. I've fortified it. Hey, that's life. I can't move out of there. The fortress in Moscow is kind of a waste. It may come into play eventually, but I've built it up over the game for some reason. And now we're here to the Brits. And before they take their action, well, we've made our decision, right? We're going to have to do a declaration of war on the Germans. And we do that. That gets us -1 victory point. But we may win the game here. That takes... I did the wrong one here. That gives us... oh no, the Russians declared war. Looks like the Russians declared war on the Germans. I think that's correct. So yeah, actually we lose both of these now. And we're now down to our minimum 3 points per industrialization action, which is pretty potent, to tell you the truth. But it might be all over, because that's a lot of movement. And we need the ground forces here in the Ruhr. Now, they've just invaded, so they're kind of knocked down like that. Our aircraft carriers, they're not terribly good. Can they do this? They can also move to land. They're not terribly good at fighting. Then again, neither are fleets against ground units. So we're not going to actually capture anything, I think. Let's look at our technology. We got motorized infantry. Naval radar, that'll be useful if we're facing a fleet. And precision bomb sights, we can hit industry, which we don't terribly want to do. So we'll go in here. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Seven, 8. One more move. I kind of need this French fleet here, don't I? And I don't really have... I can slowly give ground by being here. That's how I'm seeing that, assuming I don't get knocked out. Okay, so that's our declaration of war. Some die rolling. We have stars in both of these forced. Well, let's see what happens. There's a fair-sized fortress there. But some big French units. Boom, boom. Shit, I don't know how I flipped this now. Oh, God. I think I was like this, actually. I think these were 2-point units, and this is a 2-point fortress. So these are both 1-point units, you know. And now the French will take their chance at taking Munich. 1 hit. 2 hits. We take the fortress out. Munich falls. That's a population from Germany. And we gain a population for gaining Munich. Now this is the weirder one. We sent the troops in, so we're allowed to stick around. Looks like carriers get first strike, right? I got planes. Air Force gets first strike. I got 3 dice. And I might wipe the Germans out before they get a chance to get out of there. That's 1 hit, right? These only hit on 1s against ground units. Carriers next. They also only hit on 1s. No. And finally the fleet, which also only hits on 1s. No. Okay, now the Germans get to shoot. They only have 1 die. I kind of have to hold the Ruhr, so I can't go retreating out of here. I'm going to shoot at that ground unit. I'm not going to be able to kill it. But it's the most dangerous thing there. I miss. So this is the German unit. And here are the Allied forces, present and invading. And what is this? Why didn't I move this? Yeah, that could have been helpful. I don't know. All right, well. So that's the Allied turn. And now the Germans are going to have a tricky turn with 6 moves. We're kind of in this race of, will we lose Germany before we can possibly get Moscow? Well, the answer looks like it's yes. So now, how do we defend against this? How do we fling the Allies back? Not sure what the answer to that is. Germans did is they're leaving this unit here. Not sure that was a wise idea, but not launching an attack. They shifted air power over to Denmark. Gives them some defensive capability there. They fought a battle here, lost to the Russians, basically lost their infantry. They pulled the rest of they pulled part of their infantry out, and they're trying to hold this limited front against the Russians, but that's not going to work. And then I didn't use any of my Italians, which actually I intended to use, but I didn't have very many movement points. I wanted to use my movement points to make sure I don't lose the game to the Allied invasion that happened kind of to my surprise. So that's going to push us to the blockade segment. There's still no real problems here because the Italians didn't go cause any problems in the Mediterranean. So that's going to push us to the fall. We're not being terribly careful here, but it looks like the war is trying to be won in one fell swoop by the Allies. And that's something we're too vulnerable to allow to have anything else happen. But we've got real problems in terms of, decreases in population and then the Russians coming. Oh no. We may be able to cut some sort of deal with the Russians. I'm not sure what that deal involves, but one that doesn't include them pushing into Berlin. think Warsaw, I pretty much am going to have to give up along with everything here to stay in the game. But the possibility of Russians moving against the Western Allies is looking stronger and stronger, simply because this will probably fall to the Western Allies, and I can't take it back without attacking them. Or I can't take it without attacking them, and I can't adequately put a threat on anyone. The problem is, of course, the U.S. starts cranking troops out and throwing them into the theater, and that's going to be a difficulty. And then also, well, look, they're leaving Delhi. Yay! It won't take much to take that, right? Yeah. I still have to take Afghanistan. And the card play for this turn is set. Everybody's thrown one in. And let's see. D, the Russians are going to go first. Now, we have actually a lot of movement options here, but we're going to want to retake Odessa if we can. Beyond that, a move on Finland looks difficult, to say the least, but possibly a good payoff to it. So there's 3. Can't give this up unless I want to lose it. It's not that important. 4, 5. 6, 7. We're going to try to grab what we can from the Germans at this point. We got to put little markers for the battles in all areas, because we have to fight. We'll do Finland first. The Finnish fort is quite big. Oops. I don't know if we knew this. I don't think so. And we only get hit once, though. We have the chance to take 2 shots at it. I think we're going to take those shots, because right now we're largely on the offensive. And we get hits with both of them. Puts us there. Over here, which we think we're going to lose as well. It's a smaller fort. Germans get 2 hits, and again, we want to shoot at that. We get 1 hit against the Germans. This is a 2. It doesn't seem clear. Trying to compare the different directions things are on blocks. Blocks are, to me, a very ineffective way to handle things. And here come the Russians against the Germans. I don't need to play my heavy tank, because, or whatever my tank is, I don't know what it is. It's a heavy tank. Okay. Because that just gives me first fire, which I already have. Armor is not terribly good compared to infantry. I get a hit. And now the German infantry gets its attack next. And we're going to pull back into Romania. And that hands Odessa over to the Russians. These should not be up. Odessa was a population and 2 resources out of Germany's hands. Putting them deeper in the hole. HIJKL. H is going to be next, so we deal with the Germans. I got to think about them. It's going to be kind of tough take this. Now this is facing this way. This is the problem with leaving things face up, right? You know, if everything was standing, it would all be aligned in an easy to see way. But here, it's kind of hard. Is this right? Geez, I don't know. I think so, because I had the 4-point navy, so those probably are. Yeah, I got to think about the German turn. Germans moved a unit into Lvov. We're going to be fighting there. We're going to actually be fighting everywhere. We're even going to fire here where we're being attacked by the Russians, because we can knock a unit out that'll prevent Russians from reinforcing too much. Over here we're trying to drive the Brits out. Here the French. The truth is, we just don't have all that much on the Italian border yet. And moving the navies out, we were considering, hey, take Tyrrhenian Sea or Malta, but it doesn't matter now. That had to be last turn to affect the blockade status. So, you know, we can build up our forces or whatever. Ours are closer to the front. The problem, of course, is the U.S. is coming. And we're basically facing the collapse everywhere. All right. Let's see what we face in what is most likely the worst battle we have. We get an air unit, and we have no real benefits because we don't own the territory. Not that we would have any anyway. Jeez, I can't remember what number that was. That's a miss. Now the French get to shoot back. They're going to go after the infantry first because that'll drive the plane out if I succeed twice, which I do. But I don't have to hit the plane, or I can shoot at the plane with my other unit. Infantry versus air, I need ones. I don't think I have any advantages that help with that. The Germans are now in that raid situation, so they have to go back here, and Munich is held. Which is bad, because we lost units. I have to rotate. I don't know how to cope with these Brits. So here are the Germans, and they're all facing this way, and the Brits are facing that way. All right. Air is first out of the things that are involved. We have air defense fire. This is friendly territory, so that helps us. What the Allies are not doing is strategic bombing. That doesn't make sense with their tactics. They've got motorized infantry, naval radar, and precision bombing. Well, we're not gonna use any of those or reveal any of those. We're not seeing a lot of tech revealed. This one just because of hand size, really. So the British plane gets to go first. I've got 4 dice. No, I've got 3 dice. I'm not going to be able to wipe out the German aircraft, and they're going to be able to do a lot of damage to me. I'm best against planes. I'm still going to shoot at the planes. So I get 1 hit on the Germans, and I drop one of their larger planes. Now they get to shoot. I get, against air fire, I get twice at 3s, which is better than usual. So I'm going to roll this guy. He gets some 8 dice, and I hope that I can get rid of the 3 plane factors. No, let me use the other one, 6 dice. Against 3 plane factors. I hope I can just wipe them out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I do an extra hit, but it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, now I still have 4 more plane factors left, which are equal against Navy and ground units. I think hitting ground units is more important, but the problem with that, of course, is carrier fires next and so on, but we'll go after the ground units. Okay, and we get one hit on them because this is planes shooting. So we take them down to 1. All right, so that's been these planes. Now we're going over to the aircraft carrier, which gets 3 dice. Now, I could fire N1, but that doesn't help me because I don't have ships to fight against. So I'm going to shoot against the ground units, try to weaken their attack on me. I don't really have anywhere to retreat to. I miss. And now the British Navy, which has 4, is also G1. Carrier would have been better against air units. Yeah. Wonder what we hit here. I don't know if this was at 17 or 18. Was at 17, and I don't think I did a factory play, but I'm not sure. How many factory plays were there? Yeah, I think I did one. So it should be at 18, I guess. What am I shooting at here? I got 1 hit against infantry, I guess. Now the British infantry gets to fire. It only has 1 die. We'll go against infantry because that's what we're best against. And we get a hit. And now the German infantry gets to fire. We'll go against the British infantry because we can chase them out. And we'll do it again. And we miss. Okay. A little dinker there. I don't think I did this. Fort gets first fire, it'll take it. I don't think I did Lvov either. That's a hit. Forts hit ground units on 1 through 4. The Russians, do they want to attack back? Yeah, I got a chance of taking the territory before production. Nope. And then this is the final attack, and I really should have these little markers down for it. German fort gets to shoot first. It's a hit. Russian infantry gets to shoot. I'm shooting at ground units. I get a miss. And now the German infantry gets to shoot. And we get a hit. And yes, the Russians could have pulled out, but they guess forgot about it or something. And that's the German side of the turn. And now we go to the Western Allies, and we're still entrenched here. It's not really looking like we're going to get a quick coup and be able to take Berlin, but we know what's here. Well, we may get Berlin. We're probably not going to take both. So, let's see. We have 7 moves. Yeah, we might. 1, 2. Throw some more Navy in. Put this in because we're going to attack. 3, 4. We just lost Munich by doing this. And we're going to be out of supply. But we win the game if we take it. So that's 4. We have 3 more left. I can't find my thing. 3 more left. Get them up here. That leaves me with 1. Move my Navy up to Delhi just to help defend it, I guess. I don't know. Is that a waste? I mean, what else can I move? There really is nothing else. I think we see a Russian move if they come that way. Yeah, we'll send the Navy out too. Navy's only moved 2, or do they move 3? They move 3. Give this some protection. Alrighty. So we got 2 attacks. We'll make this enforced attack first. The air gets to swing at us. It does not get any benefit because there's no air units against it. I can't leave. I can't afford to, is basically my feeling. And now ground units kind of suck against air. I don't think I'm chased out because I own it. I have to check that. That's why I'm sticking around. I was counting on taking Munich. What about this? Well, I guess the German air goes first. I get three dice against ground. Gotta knock that sucker out. Okay, we got him. And now I get 4 more dice to take against Naval, which miss. The aircraft carrier gets 3 dice. It's best against air units, so we're going to shoot the air units. We get a hit. And now naval units are equivalent against each. We'll take ground units out, I guess. No, we'll take air units out. I don't know. The Allies look like they got themselves in some trouble here that they're not going to have an easy time getting out of. What am I rolling for? This is the British Navy. I got 4 dice. I'm going to do 3 dice against the ground units. If I get real lucky, I knock them out. I do not. 4 dice against the air units. I hit 1. Okay. Now we got to figure out what happens to the Allied forces here, and perhaps what their supply situation is going to be. Okay, so things are not quite as I thought, or the Germans are still going to have to leave here because they don't have ground support. And the Allies are going to have to leave here. Now, in both cases, they have to do a rebase, I believe, if I understand this correctly. I saw it somewhere. I saw it, I'm telling you. At the end of a land combat round, they're forced to retreat from battles without ground support. Okay, so this is actually a retreat. So it's one friendly area, and including an open sea. Well, so, and I don't think I can do a retreat by rebase, can I? Yeah, I can. Do I wish to? No, I don't think I do. There's no real advantage to giving up the sea if I'm there. The Germans, however, have to retreat, and I don't believe I'm allowed to retreat into here, even though I own it now. And I don't know, I Should have been given the pop back, and I think it goes away here. Even though I own it, because that's a something. And this is the space that I was attacked from. So there go the Germans there. The French, I think are at 2 instead of 1. I think I flipped them in a different way from how I flip things elsewhere. Have just taken Berlin, though. And taking Berlin is worth a couple victory points for one thing. Hey, I may have won the game. It's also worth a resource and 3 population. And of all things, this actually goes over to the Allies for whatever that's worth. Doesn't look like they need it, but conceivably, they're just being there allows them to start producing already. Whatever, you know. And that puts us to the winter. And here the question is, do the Russians want to move stuff around in Russia? The answer is no. I don't want to waste a card on that. Which means we're going to 1942. Forgot about this. Should have given that to the lead player. And well, we start calculating out the new turn. There's a further problem. These guys aren't in supply. They're not able to trace back to one of their capitals, right? Below. Controlled friendly main capital or subcapital. I assume that does not include a controlled enemy one. So we actually have a couple of problems. So here's one of the questions that comes up. Hey, I just conquered some territory. I'm not sure it's real, right? Because although there's no blockade marker on there, I just took it. And there should be one. There's no valid way out of here, right? Maybe there is. Hold on. And then I'm in supply. Boom, boom, boom. Can I supply through the Soviet-held territory? Uh-oh. Only through friendly territory and open seas. Whereas trade routes can pass through neutral territories. Okay, so these guys are out of supply, but not blockaded, if blockading were a question. But here's the question. Here's the issue that I see as a question. What if the Germans held this, or Yugoslavia? Then the Allies would have no way to trace their trade route, but it wasn't penalized during the blockade segment. I think you make another check, essentially, because I remember there being something about making a separate check on the blockades. During production, recheck all pop res with blockade markers for a valid trade route. No, you could clear the situation. So I think there's kind of a weird situation here that I don't like, where the Allies could have gotten trade that they shouldn't have. They do have a valid supply line for trade right now. However, being out of supply means these French units are each reduced 1 step. And that was a mistake in leaving this. I probably would have only sent 1 unit. Given that the German plane didn't hit us at all and it had no support, I'm going to do that. I'm going to reverse that. And I'm going to take another population away. Because I really don't think the French would have made that mistake, knowing that that plane was going to get chased off. It could only do 1 hit maximum. So this is what we have as a situation. Now, would the Germans have made their move? Yeah, I think they would have. I don't think they were counting on being knocked out with only the plane left in Berlin. So, Yeah, we're on the new year then. Well, it's worse than it looks. Germany has been defeated. The Axis has been defeated. Control marker the conquering faction in the capital and permanently remove all of its national units from play. I don't know what happens to Italy because they aren't part of its national units. But there go the Germans. Probably shouldn't remove all these pieces because some of them may be of some importance in some way. A defeated major power no longer belongs to a faction. So I think the Italians continue on as the Axis faction. We do not seem to have anything that happens. Oh, the faction remains Axis. But these were turned into major power units, so they're going to be easily swept up. The Allies have taken this, so we also get the Ruhrs. This is what I was trying to look up, but the minor population of 2 and 3 resources fall as well. And it's game over. Okay, so this is kind of weird because capturing Berlin is enough to win you the game. And that was not clear to me before. But I have captured its capital and therefore I own, and I also get this, I own all of Germany automatically. All the other Axis territory falls over. So that's actually the end of the game, and it went a little quicker and easier than I expected. I left a hole in Germany that I shouldn't have, no question about that. And yes, I made some mistakes in play as well that affected things. I am a little disappointed with that. At least the impression that I had of the game was that I'd have to take both the Ruhr and Berlin, or both Leningrad and Moscow. Not just that the game completely falls apart when you take one of those. I don't really like that. I think it should be that Germany would fight on with one of its capitals, that Russia would fight on with one of its capitals. Yeah, I'm really not thrilled about that. Because these are, sub-capitals, right? I am going to look to see if there's something in the errata about that, because it does feel like... So here's the thing. I mean, the move against Russia, I was predicating it on, I have to take both of these. And likewise, the moves against Germany were predicated on that idea, not just throw it all at Berlin as hard as I could and try to take that. And there is a significant difference between, the particular tactics that you would use in either case. And obviously, the Germans didn't think they were going to lose everything by potentially exposing Berlin with that attack into Munich. Although things looked pretty bleak for the Axis as a whole up until that point. That's all she wrote, basically. And, like any 3-player game, I think you're going to see this situation where it could play out as a balance of power type situation. But this game doesn't really do so because there are fair targets within, range of most of the players to be able to grab a victory. So, for example, the historical German take Paris, take France, and then turn and go against the East. And if you take Leningrad or Moscow, you win. That works. Again, I feel a little cheated by this victory. By the way, there's apparently a map error If I can find the Azores. Oh, they're up here. They count as a strait. I'm not quite sure why. How big a block are they? Yeah, I guess so you can move through here, through the corner, is the thinking with them. Not sure that Iceland shouldn't be considered one either then. It's not really that big. I don't know. There are a number of little issues in the errata that lead me to kind of questioning what's going on with it. But I am very, very disturbed by this idea that, yeah, all I had to do was take one city and I just won the game instantaneously. That opens it up to some real little blunders, but I'm not going to continue on because I picked up the pieces and discarded them. But yeah, I mean, when you take a capital, you get all the territory as part of your home, as part of your conquest with it, if it's not garrisoned by someone else. So that becomes kind of and it would be very trivial for the Allies to just move in and take the Ruhr as well. There isn't much the Russians could do about it. Had I decided, if I tried to make some kind of exception to what I understand the rules to be, to say the Ruhr is just kind of neutral right now. Well, I can't build Germans in it, and I can't build Italians in it, so I guess I could build an Italian fort there or something. Not so sure about that either, because I think those forts I think only the major power forts can be built all over the place. The minor power ones can only be built in areas that the minor power controls as colonies as well as its home area, or something along those lines. Anyway, this definitely kind of disappointed right at the end there, as we started seeing the military come into play. I don't know if I'm missing something that the rules give, but I was having a lot more fun earlier in the game. All right, we'll pump this out and then come back with a review as such.